All right, welcome to this episode of the Snowflake Sports Podcast. I am joined by resident Raider fan Chris Amato. How are you doing, Chris?
What up?
It is May 12th, around 7 Eastern Standard Time, and we are going to talk about the Oakland Raiders draft. Just recap that for a bit, and then go through the first round of the NBA playoffs standings as is. If they would just just jump in, run.
We're going to pretend, we're going to live in a different reality for a minute.
Yeah. Where they could just hang out in Vegas, go to Mandalay Bay, go to some strip clubs with no one in it, socially distance themselves.
We'll just do the dancing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. All right, so Oakland Raiders recap. So if anyone did catch, me and Chris did a Instagram live reaction of the show. And
it was a big hit. It ended up just being some of my friends laughing at me.
Yeah, pretty much. Just because, at least at that point, the two Raiders picks were pretty unconventional, which is, I guess, pretty standard for the Raiders.
That's a nice way to put it.
Yeah, you were pretty heated. You were a little mad that you had to drop out after the second pick.
After pick 22, I was still stewing, and I was like, look, I can't talk about any of these other picks. My head keeps going back to that.
So what do you think? What do you think of their overall draft?
I'd say it's a C, C minus. I think there's a lot of need besides not getting the guy I wanted, which was CD Lamb. I had CD Lamb pegged as a guy that I really wanted, probably since November. Once it looked like the Raiders might be a mid-teens type pick, which they ended up being a little lower than that because of that losing streak they had at the end of the year. But they didn't address a lot of the needs that they had, which I think their biggest need, most obvious need, among other things, was a pass rush. They didn't draft anybody that will help their pass rush. They didn't draft any. They could have got Javon Kinlaw with one of their picks. They could have got any number of edge rushers or defensive tackles that were pretty solid. Or Kenneth Murray, I think, was a pretty good all-around linebacker. They could have got at 19. Instead of Arnett. But corner was a need too. I didn't mind them going to corner. But the fact that they picked a guy that was not anywhere close, really a first round talent at all, a guy who's turning 24 in September. And I think, after looking up more, because again, I've seen a good amount of Ohio State games because, they were so good. They were always on TV. I did not really know who that was. I know who it was. And, you have Gruden and Mayock coming out and saying they liked Arnett better than Jeff Okudah, which, when you say something like that, they're going to say good things about their draft picks. But saying something like that is not encouraging to me because I just don't know what they're looking at or what they're talking about because obviously Okudah was always covering the top receiver in a conference that's pretty tough in the Big Ten and in, these major kind of national title implication games. But it's uncomfortable to me to go into the season with the pass rush needs still kind of unfulfilled and without a true sure thing at corner because the pattern that they've gotten into since Al died, which was, this season, it's going to be almost 9 years already, is they're consistently, they get this pattern where they don't have a number one corner, which is something that they had through good years and bad under Al, particularly since they drafted Charles Woodson in the 90s. They get a guy has a good rookie year, better than average rookie year, serviceable. But then there's a second and third year, there's some kind of injury maybe, or just kind of plateaus at that sort of semi-average, above average level. And never actually becomes that guy. That's what you saw with DJ Hayden. That's what you saw with Gary and Conley. Even when they would try to address it through free agency, through Sean Smith. Now, they were very good in that year, 2016. They went 12-4. But they were still a 25th ranked defense. And they were still getting shredded in the passing game. And that 25th ranked defense is still the best defense that they've had during Derek Carr's era of the last 6 years. So even just having a 25th ranked defense let them go to 12 wins. That's how that's how bad their defense has been those last few years, particularly in the passing game. But they can't hit the quarterback at all. And I was hoping that they would prioritize that at some point, but instead, I mean, you got, Lynn Bowden, who, basically drafting like a old NCAA college football EA Sports like ATH position player, basically. Like, I guess he's going to be used as a running back. I think they're going to use him to replace Jalen Richard, who's still there. But he's going to be, well, hopefully a more dynamic and explosive version of that role. Because Jalen Richard, you never hear a bad word about him, but he's not super productive in that second string role. So that's something. The other thing too is, besides Arnett, the Henry Ruggs pick was something I was upset about, but I don't hear, so to speak, smart people in the media, people who cover this stuff, talking a whole lot of shit about that pick. A lot of people love it. A lot of people thought that was a good move for them, and they thought that that's something necessary. But to me, maybe it's oversimplified, but you pick a guy that he was teammates with Jerry Jeudy, and for several years, and there was never a point in any of those years where why wouldn't Henry Ruggs be the number one guy at some point if he's that good? Why aren't you picking the guy that year after year was decided to be better than him overall? To me, the 12th pick in the draft, and that doesn't mean Henry Ruggs will be bad. I don't even think Damon Arnett will be bad necessarily. I think Damon Arnett at least he's going to be a guy in the league. He's going to be a corner at minimum that, is employed in the NFL and can play at that level. Henry Ruggs, I think, when you draft a guy at the spot, you want a guy who's more of an all-around threat, right? Like, I see CeeDee Lamb, and when I watch him in college, and when I think he can be in the NFL, is it one of those guys, kind of like what AB was supposed to be for them last year, where one of these guys where even though he's a receiver, you watch and it just feels like everything is just gravitating around him. Like, everything, every move he makes, you feel like anytime he touches the ball, like, shit's going to happen. He's going to pop off. Whereas Henry Ruggs, it's like he's more of a cog in a machine, even optimistically speaking. Even when people are talking about how great he can be, they're still saying, like, oh, he'll help, take the top off the defense. That's the phrase everyone keeps using. And I think it was a better pick than DHB in 2009, which was immediately booed and scorned and, all kind, which it should have been. I think it's a better pick than that. I think he'll be a more productive player than that, even though DHB had a, 8 or 9 year career.
Hayward Bay, to anyone that doesn't know.
Yes, Darius Hayward Bay.
That acronym.
I know, not very well known outside of Raider circles.
Yeah.
But, like, you want a guy that's more than just a gadget, I just don't know. There's a way less certainty around him being a wide receiver one, which is what you should be picking when you have the 12th pick, than there is with guys like Lamb or Jeudy. Like, that's the thing. Like, this is not a team that should be, like, they drafted as if they're a team that, like, was either in or won the Super Bowl. Because those teams, they usually they try and, like, supplement what they already have, right? Like what the Chiefs did with Edwards-Helaire at the end of the first round, right? Guys like that who are not guys you build an offense around, but guys that you are supplementing something that's already there, or a weapon that's like, a weapon like Mahomes, or guys that are already there. This is not what they should be. To me, that's just not what they should be building. Like, they should still be drafting a team that has substantial missing pieces, and that's not what I saw. I saw them adding a bunch of guys who have a lot of athletic, explosive upside. I think a good volume of guys who are going to be pretty good at the NFL level. I don't think a lot of them are going to be total washouts. Now, with that said, when it all said and done, there's a good chance that Bryan Edwards is a better wide receiver in the NFL. Than Henry Ruggs is. And he was their third round pick out of South Carolina. And they haven't really had at any point, not in my lifetime at least, a receiver in that style of the kind of Des Bryant, kind of more physical style. And he was playing Bryan Edwards in South Carolina under Will Muschamp, and in a system where South Carolina never has good quarterbacks, right? It's one of those classic, SEC schools with an anonymous quarterback, a handful of great skill players, and a crazy defense. And he excelled there. And for whatever reason, maybe it was his speed, maybe it was because he didn't have that kind of offensive surrounding him. He slipped to the third, and a lot of people had a second round grade on him. So that's one of the more exciting picks. John Simpson, the guard, in the fourth round was a solid pick. Another Clemson guy. He'll probably be a plug-in and play guy. They don't really need him right now, though, so that's good, I guess. And then Amik Robertson, another corner that they drafted in the fourth round. People say he's got great ball hawk skills, and it looks that way, too. Played in Conference USA, Louisiana Tech. Overall, I just didn't feel like when I felt what was missing from them last year, they went and just saw those things and addressed them. That's not what it looked like at all. They did with the linebacker core in free agency, which I was very happy about back in March with Corey Littleton, and I think Nick Kwiatkowski is going to be very, very good. He had 70 or 80 tackles and only started half the games last year for the Bears. And then that was something that's been even probably their worst unit overall over the last 7 years. It hasn't been a bad offseason overall. But the draft, they drafted a team that was already winning 11, 12 games a year.
So,
and they still have a long way to go.
They definitely needed it. A big need of them was from wide receiver. And, I know they selected 3, which is kind of wild.
Yeah,
but...
they should have picked a receiver at 12. It just should have been CD Lamb, I think.
Yeah.
A guy who's more to be a offensive engine instead of a piece of an offensive engine.
Right. No, that makes total sense. CD Lamb pretty much helped, Tua get back into it. Or not Tua, goddammit, Jalen Hurts, and who's it, Kyler Murray, all
Kyler
those
Murray.
Great,
Baker Mayfield,
exactly. Throwing to him.
He had 3 consecutive, Heisman or Heisman contending NFL quarterbacks. Probably not in any small part because they had this guy. Now, it's a whole different story about whether. Now, it's hard for the Cowboys. I don't blame them for picking him. Thing is with the Cowboys, it's offense. They were already the best offense in the league last year by a lot of measures. That wasn't really an issue for them. So, that's a whole other topic. But, I'm at least glad as a fan as a Raider fan that, the Broncos ended up going with Judy instead, who I think is, I don't know, I'm just not as afraid of him as I would be of CeeDee Lamb. I think CeeDee Lamb was just a can't miss prospect.
I think that would have hurt
in every way.
Playing
It was just really frustrating to see him just, by their own, volition, just let him slip away.
Yeah. But, if you saw CeeDee Lamb twice a year and just, watch him become, a DeAndre Hopkins or one of those top
Oh, my
receivers,
God. It sucks. It sucks to see it happen anywhere.
Yeah.
Or else, that was the silver lining is at least he got out, not only out of the division, but just very far away when they never really have to directly worry about him. But I think, I think overall they're a marginally better team, and I think with the expanded playoffs, I think it's okay to be optimistic about this year. I think they're a team that was really 1 or 2 plays from 9-7. And I think a 9-7 this year, with a team that is undoubted, nobody can argue that they're not better than last year. I think that with the expanded playoffs, there has to be an expectation in and outside of the organization that they should be a playoff team this year. That's where they should be at this point in year 3 of this new system of Gruden coming back. They really got to be able to. They're really counting on guys to pop off that are already there. Like Cleveland, who they picked at number 4 last year, some of their defensive tackles, like Maurice Hurst, Malik Collins, who they got over from Dallas, all these kind of guys.
Josh Abrams plays more than 1 game. So.
Jonathan.
Or Jonathan Abrams.
So they didn't really go with any safety picks. They just picked 2 corners instead. Although they did pick Tanner Muse, who can be a safety. Although I think overall that was probably the pick that they had that's less. So I think he's the least likely to be a productive NFL player, just based off of what I read about him. Mm-hmm. So that was another disappointing pick too. But it'll be a year. It'll be a lot like, a lot like the kind of later 90s Raiders teams where they were kind of right there. They were making the playoffs, but they just never really were much of a threat. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
But I could see. I think with 3 AFC playoff spots, I really don't see that. I think the AFC is going to be even worse than it was last year. I mean, the Patriots are obvious. I think are going to be worse. The Steelers are, I think, on a decline. I don't see how the Browns are a whole lot better. The Texans got worse. The Colts are there. I could see it like a Patriots or Bills, being in one wild card spot, and then like Raiders and Colts in the other two.
So you're not scared of like the Chargers just like coming
No,
back? And
no,
not at
no.
all.
I think they lost out big time when the Dolphins picked Tua. I really, I see Justin Herbert, and whenever I would watch him against the best competition, he just looked like another guy out there.
Yeah.
He never really like took over. You don't see like the Trevor Lawrence or even Baker, even guys who ended up not being that great in the NFL make those kind of plays and kind of take over at the college level in the biggest games against the best teams. I had never seen Justin Herbert do that, so you know, as a fan of a rival of theirs, I was relieved to see that they didn't end up with Tua, because I think Tua can't miss if he's healthy, which he should be, because everyone's checked him out at this point.
Yeah. It sounded like that hip injury wasn't as bad as everyone. Like they were comparing it to Bo Jackson, and it's nowhere near.
Yeah, and also people said like Bo Jackson, Joe Theismann. It's like, well, that was like 30, 35 years ago. Like we didn't really know how to like fix that stuff yet, or like how to rehab it. It's a different universe, it's a different galaxy as far as like how rehab and surgery works with those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So I think the Dolphins especially should be making somewhat of a push. I think they're going to be better than the Jets. I think they're probably going to go for 6 or 7 wins at least. So, I think they're going to be a little bit better when you're talking about the AFC. But I just look, I'm looking right here at like the other teams, and I'm just like, the Jags, the Titans will be there.
Way.
They're probably going to win
Jags.
the AFC South. Chargers and Broncos, like I just don't. I don't know. I just don't see it. Again, unless Jerry Jeudy is like a rookie of the year, just really changes the course of the Broncos offense, and Drew Lock is, incredible. The Bengals, they'll obviously be better. The Steelers, I just, the Big Ben would have to have a renaissance, 38-year-old season. And the Browns, the Browns are the Browns. Who'd they get? They didn't get anybody.
Well, they got a guard, I think, right? In their first pick. I totally forget.
For their whole offseason, though,
Oh, yeah.
You just look at the AFC picture. It's a very favorable situation going into this year for the Raiders, as far as trying to break their 3 to 4 year playoff drought that they're in. You're in a situation where, for the first time in a long time, they don't lead the league in travel miles.
Nice.
Their schedule last year was probably the hardest and most ridiculous by any measure, not just by the fans making excuses, but by anyone who covers the team, covers the league. The hardest, most ridiculous schedule last year that anyone has ever seen in the history of the NFL, with 6 straight weeks without a home game. One of the, if not the highest opponent winning percentage, having to play the Chiefs twice, which you'll have to do again. But all of these just have the ability to even have like a normal schedule with no uncertainty about where you're playing. When the virus might throw a wrench into that, as far as fans being there, that's a whole other topic. There's just a lot of things that line up to where, like, man, they should really expect to get in, and if they don't, the fans should turn on Gruden. They should turn on ownership, and they should turn on everybody who's been making decisions for them, because they have to get in this year.
Yeah, with that added spot, like, there's really no excuse at this point, especially in the third year.
I saw a stat that kind of made me die a little bit, and I probably shouldn't even say it, but they said that even if the third spot was implemented 20 years ago, they still would not have made the playoffs one time. one more time.
Oh, yeah, right, okay.
They still would have missed it.
They made the Super Bowl, what, like 01, right?
03.
03, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So just rounding off their actual draft, this Bryan Edwards guy, I don't really know him that well, because he's just like a South Carolina guy, but like he is number 1 all time in receptions at South Carolina, number 1 all time receiving yards, second all time touchdowns, and then some first all time consecutive games with a reception, which I guess is still very impressive. And like he beat out Alshon Jeffrey.
Like, there's a team that doesn't, South Carolina doesn't have offense. They never do.
Right, but he's against like the best competition when you're
and against the best defenses too.
Yeah, so like I would trust that more than whoever their other third round pick was, the Kentucky guy.
Lynn Bowden, AT.
Just because you said like he's a bigger guy, like they can actually throw to him, and they don't really, except for who's that? Tyrell Williams? Is that the Williams
Tyrell?
One?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's kind of their only guy, but he's almost like a bust at this point. So it's just like
I like him.
Yeah.
I'm a Tyrell supporter.
You're Tyrell.
He got hurt last year. He kept his touchdowns. I'm looking for big things from him this year. But he shouldn't have been in the position he was in, to where with less than 48-hour notice, he's basically taking over AB's role in the playbook, which was supposed to be pretty dynamic. So they had to dumb everything down because he can't do the things that AB does. He's a tall guy. He's a second or third wideout who's supposed to just go up and get it. And I think Brian Edwards, he's a kind of receiver that as a franchise that they haven't had. When they've had good wideouts, they're a little bit more finesse type guys, maybe physical guys, but not these big, strong dudes that you kind of see more and more. Now, it's hyperbole, and guys say this stuff all the time when they have new drafted teammates. But Derek Carr compared Brian Edwards to Anquan Bolden. And it's okay. You kind of you're like, okay, all right, but I feel like he wouldn't put the pressure on that kind of on someone that young and new if he didn't see some similarities, but he never threw to Ryan Edwards. He doesn't know him, so we'll see. The thing is, guys like Anquan Bolden, guys like Anquan and Des Bryant, who are his comparables. They were first-round talents. People knew who they were coming in. So the question is, why isn't Brian Edwards known, besides the program he comes from and besides the weak offense he comes from? So, hopefully he surprises everybody, and it'd be great if they can go back-to-back seasons with, having an offensive rookie of the year. Maybe, and I think Ruggs is going to be a good NFL player no matter what, if he's healthy. Not that health has ever been a problem for him, but I think with his kind of physical talent, he'll be productive to a degree somewhere. It's just a question of can they? Is he Tyreek Hill? Can they build an offense around this guy? And I hope so.
Yeah. So the only problem with the Anquan Bolden comp is it pretty much sounds like the Gruden comp you just said earlier. With it's just or not. I guess not the comp, but how Damon Arnett is better than.
Oh yeah.
It just kind of sounds like the same bullshit that they're coming out of their mouth.
Yeah. He was better than Jeff Okudah, man. I'll say it.
It's like the top defensive talent coming out of the draft.
There's just no way of evaluating that either. It's why would you they were teammates? You can't. They were literally defending guys that the other guy wasn't. If they were both the top corner on separate teams, then I'd listen. But it's how could you possibly evaluate that? He's tough. Every story anyone tells about him is he's a tough guy. He's had character problems, but that he's gotten over. Ever since he had a kid or whatever, all these kind of stories that have come out after he's been drafted. So I don't have any worries about that side of things or whether he's tough enough or what. It's just does he have the speed? Does he have all the stuff that they need?
Well, is he going to live up to the hype of being a first round pick versus being a
and also not live up to any hype either, but also get past the kind of pretty widespread disappointment that was had with his pick, because nobody thought that was who they should. They had so many options. Honestly, I was expecting a Kenneth Murray type pick right there. Instead,
or Gladney from TCU too would have worked.
Yeah, anything like that. And again, they weren't. After seeing what some of the other teams did, I really felt the draft overall, there were a lot more weird picks than I remember other drafts having, as far as what convention kind of said would happen. Jalen Reagor. Jalen Reagor to the Eagles, Jordan Love to the Packers. Those kind of picks were just kind of they almost overshadowed what the Raiders did, I think, which is why you don't hear as much bad press about what the Raiders did after the fact. I really have, and this is a team that gets a lot of negative press. They're a team that people look for reasons to pick on. A lot of teams, when they're bad, they just don't get talked about, like the Bills, like the Jaguars, like the Panthers, right? When they go through rough stretches, they just disappear. When the Raiders are bad, it's a joke. So it says something to me that, people that are supposedly pretty smart about this saw their draft and, kind of said like, hey, maybe they know what they're doing here, so try not to put too much trust in, people who are myself when it comes to analyzing people, because they're human beings too, just like I am. But, it softened my disappointment with it a little bit, but, it wasn't enough for me. And also, they actually just signed, right before we started, Prince Mukamara to play corner, which is not what I wanted.
Another corner.
It's not Logan Ryan. So,
right.
It's not a guy that's going to, improve your team, really, other than just being a veteran in the league. So it's still an unfilled need, and, I don't know. They feel unfinished, and in year 3, you shouldn't be unfinished.
Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. No, okay, so there were some outlier picks, like the ones you just said with the Eagles and the Packers.
Yeah.
I just felt like the majority of teams had good drafts. like I thought the Jets had a good draft, and they should never have a good draft.
Is either. No one's played.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, every draft is you see people come out who and I'm not a junkie for it or anything, but I watch college football every single week. I follow it pretty closely when I'm not watching Cuse, who's usually pretty bad, not too much recently. People who haven't seen these guys play on a consistent basis, all of a sudden saying, "Oh, that's a bad pick. Oh, this guy's good." And it's like, well, would you just look him up on YouTube?
Watch the 2-minute clip on ESPN.
That's better than nothing. Yeah, I mean, you could learn a lot from those 5 or 6 minute videos, but it's when you're not watching the ebb and flow of the game and especially with quarterbacks, especially with someone like Justin Herbert, for example, is probably the biggest example, or Jordan Love, to me, is when you watch them actually during a game and not just the best of their plays or the worst of their plays, and the ebb and flow of it. To me, it's it tells you everything, because it's okay, you feel the momentum of each play. Did that play happen when the moment was at its biggest, when everyone was at their loudest, when the team needed them the most, when was it a drive where they had 3 or 4 straight completions? Those are the things that a YouTube comp doesn't really tell you as much or at all. So when people say someone had a good draft or a bad draft, I think you see a lot of people come out of the woodwork, not pundits, because they know the college players because that's their job, but just other fans, other people, just immediately declare whether a guy is good or bad or not. It's just it's not a bad thing. It's just sports. Who gives a shit? People can say whatever they want. It doesn't matter. But it's just an interesting tidbit about what comes out about the narrative of the draft and what was weird or not weird about it.
Yeah, I just think pundits now, or just maybe this has been always a thing. It's just they're very high on people. They see all the potential. They're never just
Jordan Love.
Dude, this kid fucking sucks. They're never down on someone in a draft.
The Jordan Love thing is maybe I'll eat shit about this. Maybe it'll be great, but is one of the biggest, weirdest mass delusions in a draft I can remember in recent history.
It made no sense. There was no
because you really look at anything Jordan Love has done. It's what is this?
Yeah.
Where is this coming from? And people are oh, he makes all the throws, and I'm I mean,
he threw 17 picks in the Mountain West.
Yeah, they're the same good throws that the other QB prospects are making. Even Justin Herbert. So it's why are we forcing this? I just feel it's the whole, I don't know. I think everyone's just got Mahomes brain, and they just see another tall, polite, athletic, biracial guy with a cannon arm, and they're oh, that's Mahomes.
That's it.
I think they're just they're just painting him with that brush. It just has that feeling, except it's even worse with him because he didn't play against the competition that someone like Mahomes did or the other major quarterbacks in this draft. He played in Utah State, and he had a bad senior season at Utah State. He did great his junior year. If he had his junior year stat line and just did that again his senior year, I'd probably have a different tone about him. But when you're regressing, and regressing while doing it in a, mid-major FBS conference, well, why is he someone who you're picking to replace Aaron Rodgers and pissing Aaron Rodgers off? When you have so many other skill needs that you never address.
Yeah.
So that to me was the worst pick of the first draft, because not only are you not fixing anything that you need, and they went to the NFC title game, they don't have dire needs, but you're also alienating, maybe a top 6 or 7 all-time quarterback that you have, that you felt once again that you just were lucked into having, like Brett Favre, in the last few years of his career. It's just, that to me, that was at least as far as the crazy parts of the draft, that was the highlight of it for me. Because going into it, they said Mel Kiper had Jordan Love going to the Raiders at 19.
Yeah.
And that's another thing too, is like, I'm been wrong. I was wrong last year too, because maybe this is finally the end of the Gruden loves quarterback meme that keeps getting spouted out there every single offseason, every season, every draft, that he just goes and is always trying to find the next QB. It just hasn't happened. It's never been true. And the reason people say that is because with the Bucs, he never had a good quarterback. So obviously he's going to go and keep trying to find more quarterbacks when your quarterback sucks. But he has one that doesn't suck now. So hopefully people finally shut up about that. So that's another good thing about this offseason, is maybe that noise will all stop. And I think that could be a big edge for them. And I think year 3 of a QB and coach relationship is a big edge for them as well. I think that kind of communication, that kind of comfort, knowing what your weapons are this year, which, fingers crossed there won't be another seismic 48-hour notice, trade or guy cut from the team. Maybe Derek Carr will be traded 2 days before the first game. Who knows?
Maybe.
But
we gotta move on though, because we talked like 30 minutes of this. I thought we talked like 15. But
yeah.
All right, first round NBA stuff. I was gonna start with the Eastern Conference, like do Milwaukee, Orlando, and just kind of go down the list. All right, you Bucks Magic. What do you got in this series? Like, how many games? Who wins?
Well, this is a classic, 1 seed sweep, I would think. I mean, they're one of the 2 teams in the East that has a losing record. I think they're a little bit better of an 8 seed than you might normally see, because, they're far ahead of the other teams in the conference. They have, I think, a more solid core than they used to have. But this just has the look of another kind of just easy first round, boring NBA playoff first round of a 1 seed, that you kind of see. Maybe they'll sneak a game, that happens. But when I look at that kind of a matchup, it's just one of those. It's like, not to see here, maybe Giannis will do something cool. I think that's how the East is until you get to the 3 and 6 match.
Yeah.
The Pacers and Celtics.
Yeah, I think this is a sweep too. I don't really want to knock the Magic. I just think the Bucks are just like that good. Like they lead the league in
they got 53
points
wins.
differential. They have the best defensive team rating too in the league right now. And I just like Orlando has pieces. Like Jonathan Isaac is playing really good on defense now. Aaron Gordon seems like a piece they could use now. He's not just like someone that has potential. Yeah. So it's just like, if they stop drafting like weird power forwards and like Mo Bamba and I forget that Birch dude.
You got Nikola too. Nikola might be their best player.
Yeah, true. But like I don't know. I guess the Raptors last year he completely shut down. Like Michael Carter Williams had a better playoff.
MC Dubs, my hero.
MC Dubs, Cuse, let's go. But yeah, so I think they sweep them. They're just too complete, and their defense is just like incredible right now. And I don't know, I just don't really see the Magic doing much. I do like what the Magic are doing. Like I think Steve Clifford's like a good coach, and like the fact that they're like a mid-market team and somewhat competing. I don't know.
The Bucks are like not only a 1 seed and far and away a 1 seed, but like they're, they were at a potentially like near historic level of winning. I mean, 53 out of 65 games. I mean, yeah, I mean, you're looking at like a mid 60 win season. Like that's a few games off from like some of the best of all, like, you know, like the Bulls teams that, you know, Last Dance is talking about, or that Warriors team in 2016. You know, I mean, they were close to that kind of neighborhood, and so they're not only, you know, they're not a typical one seed. Besides the fact that 1 and 8 matchups in the NBA in particular are typically extremely imbalanced.
What's crazy too is they were 53-9, and they lost 3 straight before COVID-19. So it's like they knew
what was coming.
Shot.
They're like, there's no point to this. Why are we trying?
Yeah, that's true. But I mean, I feel like they had the bench to do that. Like if they really pushed, you know, like it's 72.
It was probably, maybe, I don't know, maybe they were doing load management. I don't remember. I don't remember if Giannis was playing or not. Those last couple games.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think one of the last ones was that Lakers Bucks game.
Oh, okay.
National TV. So
yeah, and the Lakers have a few less wins, I think, but you know, but then their conference is tougher too. They got to deal with the Clippers a bunch of times a year, a few times a year too. So they have a lot more. The Bucks get to hammer on everybody because there's only like 5 or 6 good teams in all of the Eastern Conference.
Well, like the Western Conference, I feel like is top heavy. So it's like, you know, Lakers, Clippers are, I feel like, a league above everyone else. But I feel like the middle is better in the East, like the Toronto, Miami, like Boston, I guess kind of Pacers if you want to throw them in there, and like Sixers on the outside.
Yeah, I think the Pacers would give the Celtics a big run. Like, I mean, I think the Raptors and Nets would be, especially with no Kyrie. I wonder if I should just make a bet that like KD will never play for the Nets. I wonder if he'll ever play for the
just
the
never.
KD
He's just not
thing.
gonna play next year.
It's just a big mirage, just a big illusion. Because like, you know, they bring them in there, and then, you know, not only that, again, this is a thing where the fucking Knicks brought those guys in and they didn't play. Imagine the narrative. Imagine the narrative of what was going on with the Nets right now was going on with the Knicks.
Oh, blow up
at least back when the season was going on, where you bring these guys in, KD still is not playing at all, which people knew going in. Kyrie is acting up, gets hurt. Then they fire Kenny Atkinson after he took this team to the playoffs without either of those guys last year. I mean, it really it's frustrating. It's frustrating to see that, and still people have like this like high regard, you know, for the organization. And it's just like they're just as clueless, you know, like, or almost as clueless at least. They just don't have Dolan at the top, you know. And I think their series with the Raptors would be a very similar way. I think the Raptors would, without Kyrie at least, I think they would sweep them too.
Yeah, I got them a gentleman sweep, just a little 4-1. They played each other, I think. Like, there was 1 week where they played, like, at Brooklyn, then at Toronto, and both
they
games
would
were,
sweep
like,
them.
Weirdly close.
They would sweep them because fuck Brooklyn.
Fuck Brooklyn!
Yeah.
So what was it today? Also today is the anniversary of the 4 bounce game, so
yes,
there you go.
I saw that on the Athletic.
Yeah. So, I was rewatching...
Did you watch that at my house?
What's up?
Did you watch that at my house?
No, that was the Magic game. That was that game 3.
Okay.
Like, kind of close one. We're at the Richard DeVoe Center.
Oh, yeah, where I was like, oh, Raptors, are they choking? What's going on here?
Yeah, it was 1-1. It was a little scary, you know.
Yeah.
But no, I was watching, was it the 2014 one where they played Brooklyn? Or maybe it was...
Well, it was I think it was when the Nets had like that weird ass roster with like G and Pierce from the Celtics.
Like Joe Johnson was there. Like Sean Livingston was still on that team.
Yeah, it was a really stupid team that they had.
Yeah, but like, because I remember the sequence where like Kyle Lowry basically gets fouled like 3 times while he's going to the basket, and like no one's talking like about like Paul Pierce just like hacking him right at the rim.
Oh, dude, they were all so. It was such a. Oh my god.
It was a dumb sequence.
It was one of the more, it was one of the more unlikable periods of the Nets, you know.
Yeah.
I think with the forced like KG and Pierce, as if they're still in their prime, like acting like they got like this sweet like just deal done to get these to Hall of Fame guys. It's like, no, man, they're like 37. Like, you know, and they got to the playoffs because they had some depth, but it was just such a waste of time, you know. And I think a Nets Raptors this year would also be a waste of time. So I think that's another series where, you know, they're just giving away this year. They fired a coach that I think put the organization in a good place temporarily, and who knows, what's going to happen with them next year if when there's a season.
So,
Because,
I mean, the thing with the series, though, is, like, with this whole time off, like, there is time for at least Kyrie to come back if he wants to, and, like, maybe even Durant. Like, it's coming on,
well, the Durant
like, almost
thing
a
was
year.
rumored for a couple of days, and then it got shut down the other day.
Wow, well, I don't know. It could always pop back up, you know? 'Cause,
Yeah,
like,
maybe.
they're not going to play.
I don't think there'll be NBA this season. I think this season they're just going to pretend like it's just, it's over. There was no champion, no playoffs. Just like if it was
Yeah,
like a
yeah.
strike.
I mean, you're probably right. Because they're going to have to start at least in, like, July, around that range. And
Yeah, because even baseball will be like maybe early. Like the optimistic is like 4th of July start for baseball.
yeah, that's
So-
what they would similar to have to be that.
Yeah, it's just not happening.
Yeah, probably not. But let's continue as if it was. So Boston, Philadelphia, the weird, actually interesting.
I believe it's
Series at least.
Celtics Pacers, right? Because where they Pacers were the 6th seed, I think.
No, Sixers. I guess they're tied.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I remember the Pacers were somewhere in that range because they weren't the 4th seed, so they must be 5 or 6. Let me see.
I just don't know the.
Yeah, it looks like they got 6 right here.
Okay.
Yeah,
we'll
they're
go
tied.
with them at 6 then. So
Yeah, maybe they have a better conference record or head-to-head or something.
all right. So Boston Pacers. Who do you got? Who do you got there?
I mean, yeah, I would go with Boston, but I think this could be a 7-game series. It's definitely where I think the playoffs start to get pretty interesting. I think the Pacers are very, very dangerous. And they're just, they're one of those franchises, too, that just always seems to just kind of overachieve a little bit in the playoffs. They always seem to, like, steal a series, maybe 2 series sometimes. They're very well balanced. They play great defense. Oladipo came back, I believe, right? Didn't he come back before?
Yeah, but he did not play well. Like that first 2 weeks, he almost kind of ruined that team. Like,
Well, he's getting this. He's a guy who's
yeah,
gonna be
no, it's
good.
hard.
And it's the emergence of Sabonis. I really,
Yeah,
and Miles Turner has been great.
Malcolm Brogdon.
I have a great feeling. I
He's been
like
amazing.
Malcolm Brogdon a lot. I liked him in Virginia too when he was there. I think they could really. I wouldn't be surprised. Any of the series going forward. 3 seed, 4, 5 seed matchup. I could easily see the Pacers beating the Celtics. If I were to pick an upset, it'd be that one. I could.
Okay. I think the Boston will win too. I was gonna go with 6, like a 4-2 kind of win. Just because like Jason Tatum ascension this year has been like really good. Like Jaylen Brown scoring 20 points per game now, which I think is like 5 points above last year. Like Gordon Hayward's had some flashes. Like this team's just like
they all are freed from the demon of Kyrie.
yeah, yeah. Just like we basically replace someone who's not as good, but like almost as good
Kemba
with
Walker.
Kemba, but just like such a better locker room presence.
Yeah,
And
I
hate
mean
that
when you
'cause I
can
love
replace
Kyrie, but
when you can
that's just
replace a
what
guy like
happened.
Kyrie with a slight like a lesser all-star, but still an all-star, maybe a little older too, a couple years older. That's a great thing.
I just thought that this whole like break, it just kind of ruined how like Oladipo could come back and like start, playing well. Like he like came in for like, a month or so and then it's just like now he's out for like 2 months. And it's very hard to get like back into basketball shape.
Yeah, and I
just,
think
like,
that
playing games.
a lot of guys are in a similar position too, where not that they've been like hurt, but like coming back, and it would just like screw up so much of the like the timing, because some guys can handle those kind of layoffs, some guys can't. Whether or not it's like a mental thing or a work ethic thing, who knows? But I think going forward, I think a lot of these teams that are more injury plagued, like the Nets or like the Pacers, are going to benefit from this kind of a layoff, because I think they'll have some time to, brush some of the messier stuff that's been going on under the rug, like the fired coach or the injured stars, and just really take this time to really get their shit together. But, if a series was happening, just to be interesting, I would say Pacers in 7 over the Celtics.
Ooh, okay. Okay, so with that scenario happening, do you think Brad Stevens gets fired? Is on a hot seat? Or
You'd be on the hot seat, yeah. I mean, that's no doubt. I don't think he'd get fired.
Well, like, couldn't you almost kind of blame the whole like Kyrie thing on him? Like, he just can't handle big stars and like the best of the best in the NBA.
Maybe, but like that's been Kyrie's thing like everywhere
Yeah.
though. Like I'm sure Danny Ainge will knows like how Kyrie was in Cleveland, how he's been with the Nets. It's not like it's been great over there.
Yeah.
And then what happened with Kenny Atkinson as well, which is extremely sketchy and weird. So I think he would get the benefit of the doubt when it comes to factoring anything related to Kyrie to what would happen should they lose to the Pacers in the first round. I think it would be it would be a hot seat thing. It'd probably be weird for everyone. Maybe he wouldn't. Maybe he would be like a negotiated kind of departure because he wouldn't want to deal with a year of the hot seat in 2020, 21. So I wouldn't. I mean, I wouldn't get rid of him if they did lose in 7 in the first round.
Yeah, I mean he's a pretty good X's and O's guy.
Yeah, he's kept them in contention.
Really good system. Yeah. I don't know. It just seems like he almost seems like that guy from Butler, where it's just like this college coach that can't really hang up there.
He's
and
built this roster of guys who are like not like these crazy like explosive talents and turned them into like a consistent winning.
What are you talking about? Did they have like Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Gordon Hayward? Gordon Hayward used to be an all-star.
But they're not like it's not like this team of like stars. It's a team of like solid, like good quality, like all-star players. But like they're a team. Like they're still a sum of their parts, even though they do have talented guys and all-star quality guys. But it's not a team that's built around distinct personalities or star power, and I think like the way they're constructed, to me, it looks like a team that's well coached when you watch them. It's not a team that just has a couple of major core pieces and then the coach's job is just to manage personalities. Like my impression of the Celtics in the last few years is like a team that has a pretty clear philosophy and an approach that can only come from a good coach. And I think that's just what he's been for them. And I don't. It wouldn't be crazy to get rid of him after a first round exit because you have a couple years of basically downgrading, and you get worse than you were the year before. I mean that's never good. Especially not in pro sports.
He's probably fine. This probably isn't really much of a conversation, but
yeah.
It just seems weird that they like had so much talent. Well, I guess they had Horford last year too, and they got bounced by the Bucks very easily. But like you said, like you could really just point that to Kyrie and how much of a head case he's been, like, the whole thing in Brooklyn.
Because he's been the constant where all these problems have gone. Right? It's not something where he went to Boston and like this new side of Kyrie emerged.
Yeah. All right, let's move on. Heat Sixers. Who do you got here?
I'd say the Heat just because the Sixers are just not great shooters, and I don't like teams that don't have a lot of great shooters. I don't trust Tobias Harris. I don't trust Joel Embiid to be healthy, and I don't trust Ben Simmons. I like Ty Lue. He's always a guy I like a lot.
Shake Milton. I forget who that guy was. He's like, I think he was kind of like a G leaguer or something, and played a decent amount because Ben Simmons was hurt, and just kind of went off.
Yeah,
he scored a bunch. You a fan of him?
I think the Heat are so much more well balanced, and they have the Heat have every kind of good player. Like they have good shooters, they have guys that can drive, they have their big dudes like Bam Adebayo, like guys like that. You look at their roster and like every kind of good player that you can have that fills the different kind of roles that a good playoff team needs is there. Doesn't mean I think they can make a deep run really. Maybe they could, just because the East is sort of weak. But they're just more balanced than the Sixers are.
They'd have to run into Milwaukee though. That's their kind of problem though.
Yeah. Well, so in this scenario, I mean, you would have Bucks, Pacers.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And then you'd have Heat and Raptors.
Toronto.
Yeah.
Yeah, they could definitely give Toronto.
Honestly, the Heat could beat the Raptors too in that situation.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think I had them in 6, so like a 4-2 win, or 4-2 games. Bam Adebayo is just playing like unbelievable right now. I never thought he would make that ascension. It just kind of reminds me of like Pascal's kind of thing, where just like, hey, it's this guy that like high energy guy that he guess he doesn't really come off the bench, but just like high energy guy that comes in, scores a couple points, gets some rebounds,
Yeah.
And now he's like a point forward person. It's just
He's
watch
awesome. I think his emergence is even more sudden than Siakam's was.
Yeah.
I think with Siakam you saw like some more gradual improvement. And Adebayo, like, he's only 22, I think, right? Or 21 maybe, 22.
Something like that. He's young.
Yeah. And so he's been good right out the gate. And he's from Kentucky, I think, too. So, Calipari, he knows how to turn out those guys. And, I think he's a guy that they can really look to build around. Not Butler, not Goran Dragic, some of these guys that are a little bit more of these, all of a sudden they're older veterans now. But guys who will still help. And crazy enough, Udonis Haslem is still there, who's got to be like pushing 40.
Yeah. So, what's his face? Adebayo is 22. So.
Okay. Oh, I nailed it.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Haslem is 39 right now, but will turn 40
That's
in
crazy.
June.
He's still in his 30s.
So.
I remember he was on.
He pretty much is 40.
Heat Mavericks 06. He had to be.
Oh yeah, no, he was on those Heatles teams.
Yeah, the D Wade and Shaq title. With
he's
the Stan Van
been on
Gundy
Miami
team
forever.
before that.
All right, moving to the West though, Lakers Grizzlies. What do you got?
Well, Lakers Grizzlies is the only series that I don't think is interesting in the West. I think the rest of those series can go either way. But this is one where, it's another one that'll probably be a sweep, maybe 5 games, because, maybe there'll be a 45-point Ja Morant game, who knows. But, this will be, one of those classic LeBron first-round tune-ups that we've seen him do over and over and over and over again, probably a dozen times in his career. So I think with this, there's nothing to see there. But I think the Grizzlies are, definitely ahead of schedule with where I think a lot of people and myself thought they would be at this point. I thought, you would see a Blazers team that was in the conference finals last year. I remember we talked about this earlier in the season, probably back in like December or January. And I thought the Blazers would, make a run to the 8th seed. And they could still have done that. They're only 3 games back, I think. But, the Grizzlies, I think, made a push a much sooner than people expected. But, the fact is it's the West. It's still LeBron's conference, and they would get their ass whooped. And, probably would be a learning experience for Ja, because he seems like the kind of guy that, no matter what happens, he's just going to keep getting better and better and better. So wherever the Grizzly fans are out there, I think they should be very, very excited about whatever happens to them in the near future.
Yeah. I mean, like Ja Morant, rookie of the year, pretty much right there, just because Zion's been hurt, but he's just been playing amazing.
Yeah.
Who is it? Triple J? I forget his, Josh Jackson? Or whatever the guy, their first round pick last year, I can't believe I'm forgetting his name.
Jaren Jackson Jr.?
Jared Jackson, right, thank you. He just can pretty much do everything as a big man. But I feel like it kind of teeters off. Like, they just have so much potential. They have that, like, Brandon Clark dude that's just like...
They got your boy Valanciunas.
Yeah, no, he was part... They got, I don't know, they had DeLon Wright for a bit, and then
Brandon Clark's great.
Yeah.
Great rookie.
So, like, yeah, he's fast. He can pretty much guard anyone.
They have Brandon Clark, Grayson Allen, as well as Ja Morant.
They don't have Grayson. I think Utah has Grayson.
Grayson Allen, I'm going to look up. Yeah, this... I seem to be correct. This says Grayson Allen Grizzlies right here.
Really? I think right. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
No, you're right.
Oh, dude. They have like a college all-star team, like on their roster, like a 2019 college all-star team on their roster. They're just, we've seen the Grizzlies kind of be this kind of middling team that always seems like in the perpetual cusp, like, oh, if they just have this more piece, but like, and then they never get it, and then it just goes away. This new core that they're building, has a really big chance to go beyond the grit and grind era, or whatever you wanted to call it.
Yeah.
That you saw before that got to the conference finals. I think with Rudy Gay and with Zach Randolph and everyone else.
Marcus All, Mike Conley.
Yeah, Marcus All, obviously, yeah. Mike Conley. So, they're going to be great for years to come. But, I mean, the Lakers are just really managed, I think, to surpass some of the hype coming into this year.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, LeBron just playing like legitimate defense in the regular season was
leading the league in assists, I think, right?
What's up? Sorry.
Didn't he lead the league in assists?
Yeah, no, it's wild. Well, right, like I feel like their offense is pretty simple. It's just impossible to stop. It's like, okay, let's run a pick and roll with AD and LeBron.
Yeah, well, they're two of the most efficient players who have ever lived.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
it's impossible. Like I don't even know. Like the Bucks maybe the Sixers can match that defensively, but like on the offensive side, like the Sixers have no one that could.
Yeah, I mean if they're on their game and LeBron's healthy and everything's clicking and nothing weird's happening, I mean the Lakers I think we're going to win the title.
I don't know. I kind of think the Clippers are just a little deeper and like
they've been beating the Clippers' ass though when they started in recent matchups.
They won one game. They won one game.
Yeah,
and that was because Avery Bradley scored like 20 points.
And there are several games better than them too. Like it's not really that close in the standings either.
But like a series, like an actual play, like because also they haven't been playing at all. They've been doing load management this whole time. Like they have more guys that they could throw at LeBron and just like kind of tire him out. Hopefully.
I just see LeBron and AD, and I don't know. I'm obviously treating it like a caveman would, but I just see those two guys and book it. It's just that's all you need.
Well, I guess let's just get back to the first round to talk about those. Clippers. They're playing the Mavs, who also look real good.
Yeah,
I feel like kind of ahead of schedule, but like pretty much where they would be at this point.
You know what? The Clippers. I mean, they have Kawhi though, so I can't even say like, oh, they're the Clippers, so maybe they'll lose.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it could go 7. This is at the point where I think all the rest of these series can really go either way. And it wouldn't be Maverick Clippers would be pretty surprising, but it wouldn't be like this kind of like the Warriors Mavericks in 07, one of those kind of deals, it
wouldn't be that. It would be pretty shocking though.
Yeah.
The Clippers.
But I mean, the Mavericks are pretty stacked. They have a lot going for them. Obviously, they still have Rick Carlisle, who's won a title, and every team he ever has is going to play great defense.
They got the guy in Luka.
It hurts me to be high on Kristaps, but it's his first chance at really at a big playoff series, or it would have been. So maybe he'll elevate his game. Maybe he'll shrink. I don't know. But they would give the Clippers. It would be a much more difficult series than on the other side, where you have the Raptors and a Kyrie and KD-less Nets. I could see it going at least 6 games, honestly.
I'm kind of on the other side. I think the Clippers are going to kind of handle them. I feel like
you're high on the Clips.
Dude, I love the Clippers. They just have so many. They have so many wings. Like they have Kawhi, you got Paul George, they somehow have Mo Harkless with the starting for the Blazers last year when they were made it to the conference finals.
Yeah. Well, they traded him to the Knicks.
They signed Marcus Morris, who I don't know, that might not be as good as.
Yeah, well, Harkless is on the Knicks now, and Marcus Morris is on the Clippers.
Oh right, okay, wow. I've lost it since there hasn't been basketball for 2 months.
Yeah, yeah. The Knicks randomly got Mo Harkless. Well, they wanted Morris's contract off.
Yeah, no, that was a good trade for them.
Yeah, it was honestly like a perfectly normal thing to do.
Like sell high on Morris and get a decent defensive guy that doesn't really play offense.
Yeah, he's cheap and he'll just go away.
Yeah, just very like every other Nick. Yeah, I don't know. I just like the Clippers team. I think Doc Rivers is a good coach. I think Kawhi in a playoff series, like we all saw last year, like he can carry a team. And if it's him and Paul George just kind of feeding off each other, it'll just be interesting to see though, because like the way Toronto worked, it was like, hey, it's Kawhi and then the rest of the team. And then this is like...
Can you imagine Lakers Clippers conference final this year?
Oh, it'd be amazing.
My God.
That's what everyone wants.
I mean, it'd be like a Last Dance type of, epic.
Yeah.
It would be...
That first game, I felt like had the most hype of like an NBA regular season game in like 10 years. Like that.
Yeah, outside of games that weren't like, oh, this guy's coming back. Back or this or that. Like it was just strictly like, this is big because it's 2 really good teams playing. Yeah, like I mean, I can't remember the last time you had that kind of a thing going on. Maybe like, I don't know. I mean, maybe like some other LeBron type of rivalries that there were, like maybe, when the 2012, 2013, like maybe like Knicks Heat, even though it was always kind of one-sided, ended up being, a lot of hype in the Garden, like those kinds of things. Well, other than that, like with the true national attention and not just, the hype from a couple markets. Yeah,
I mean, it also
the rivalry
helps.
in the regular season I haven't seen at all.
It also helps that all the national media is pretty much in LA now.
Yeah, or New York.
Anyways,
yeah,
so,
I mean, it's very easy too. I mean, it's weird. It's always been weird to me with the Lakers and Clippers, where it's like, it's like, is this a road game or like they just turn on different lights, like
have
on
a
the
different
Jumbotron and on the court and have a different paint on the court. It must be like really weird. It's almost like kind of a cheat code, especially when they're both good.
Yeah. Well,
Because
I feel like that
before it
hasn't
was-
happened. Like it's either one or
It's
the
never
other.
happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's never happened. Yeah, because when there was the, Lob City or whatever, the Lakers sucked. You had the old Kobe. You had, they were going away as a force. So either way, it always felt like that whole aspect of the rivalry was lost. Like the fact that you weren't really traveling and didn't actually. But now it's like it really adds to it a lot because even with Yankees Mets, it's like they're in separate conferences. So that didn't really matter as much. But when you're not only in the same conference, you have geographic conferences in the NBA, you're in this same division. It's really for a rivalry, a scenario that if they're both as good as they are, which they were this year, there's nothing like that. There's no there's no atmospheric comparison. There's no two teams that share the same city in the same division and are that good. It's never happened. So
Though it is a big Laker town now. Like there's not a lot of Clippers fans. It's the same as like a Nets Knicks series.
Yeah.
Right? Like if they were both good, there would be like 80% Knicks fans in the Barclays.
I mean, when they face each other, I mean, they should just honestly just have like just very basic just colors everywhere, like neutral, and just have an NBA logo in the middle.
Or it just says LA. It's just like
it
standard
just says like Los Angeles
font.
and like a Times New Roman font in the middle.
No Comic Sans. Don't want
Yeah,
to
just
laugh
no like nothing. Like we're gonna make this as stale as possible. Just like
Yeah.
that's really. I mean, it would have been really awesome, and hopefully that having a year to wait again to have that possibility, and the age factor with LeBron, hopefully that doesn't take away from that possibility. Because with some of these guys, you're at a point where like every year counts now. Kawhi is still young enough. I think Paul George is still young enough. He's only 30. Hopefully this wasn't the last chance to try and hopefully see something like that.
Yeah. All right, moving along to Denver versus Houston.
Oh, I'm taking Houston all the way.
Houston?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Nuggets
did
always
too.
blow it, and I love Russ. I love D'Antoni. I don't love James Harden, but I respect him. I like him a lot more than I think most people do because I think they hate how he plays. But the dude's scoring over 30 a game all the time. So I think the Rockets would really kick their ass, even though they're the 6th seed in the situation.
Really? So like 5 games? 6 games? Or...
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
5.
around there. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
I was pretty high on that not Westbrook trade. When they traded Capella, it was like, okay, like now they just have like shooters around Russell Westbrook, now I can just like wreak havoc, and that's pretty much what happened.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna pat myself on the back for that. And I just love this offense that they do that. Like now Russell Westbrook can just go and just have savage dunks just like straight through the middle and
that's
and
also
just like
what I
pass
like
out to
about them, is
Harden,
it's like
Eric Gordon.
it's so obvious like what they're doing and what they're trying to do, but like for the most part people can't stop it. Now that's because I think it's very stoppable when you get to the second or third round, especially if they had to face the Lakers in the second round, which it would probably be the case if they won.
Yeah.
But that's really just because of how talented the team, like those top 2 teams are. And there's a lot of eras where maybe 9 or 10 years ago, where a Rockets team with this makeup and with these players would definitely be title favorites, I think. I just think they're so talented. But I just love Russell Westbrook's my favorite player in the league.
Is your favorite player?
Yeah.
Really?
He's exactly what I want out of a player in every way, physically, mentally, everything.
But isn't he just like frustrating? Well, I feel like this after that Capella trade,
players because I love guys that are like very human, and you can like feel them struggling through the game. Not that like this game is hard for Russell Westbrook, obviously, but I mean like there's like a drama to it with guys like that, where it's like it's in doubt whether or not they can get over a certain threshold. I think Allen Iverson was a guy like that for a lot of people. Tracy McGrady, these guys who are like at times top 3 players in the league probably. And just like, can they do it? Like it's like a very like, very human drama to it. So it's like, having a favorite character in a TV show. Like a guy that's not really the main guy.
I guess he's fun to watch and stuff, and he's very, I don't know, I just feel like the whole tunnel vision thing and just like not finding the right pass and shooting
just a triple-double.
Over 2 guys.
He passes people all the time.
Yeah, I know that narrative is kind of almost ran out, but like, he like lost his shot, and like the past 2 years have been kind of rough on him.
He has a game that's like, you can do when you're 23 years old, but when you're on the wrong side of 30, it's like, dude, can you just be popping up there all the time? Can you build your game around just like dunking over people's heads?
Yeah.
He can for a little while, but and maybe this was it. Maybe this is the last year where you'll see a Russell Westbrook that's close to what he was when he was averaging triple doubles a couple years ago.
Yeah. The only problem with this series, if you think it goes that handily, is like Denver's best player is Jokic, and they don't have like a suitable center. I mean, they're kind of lucky that he plays more outside the key.
Yeah, it's weird that they managed to win as many games as they have, honestly. I thought they'd be like a 7 seed this year.
Who, Denver?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, did I take this? Damn it, I lost the standings, but I'm pretty sure like 3 to 7 is like within like 4 games.
Okay. Yeah.
Like all those teams are like legitimately.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh shit.
Yeah. So,
yeah. Well,
like the
Mavs
are 3 games back, and they're a 7 seed. So.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's the other thing too with these series. It's like, one or the other.
Yeah.
Pick them.
Yeah. All right. Last one.
I just
OKC, or what?
I was gonna say it's like the same formula I said when we talked earlier. When in doubt, who's got the higher end talent? And when you have Russ and Harden, it's like, hey, I gotta side with them, even if they're the 6th seed.
Yeah. We'll hopefully see. But yeah, moving on. OKC, Utah. So who do you got here?
I have Utah, and I think it would be a short series. Because I think the Thunder are a team that were kind of like, unexpected. Which they definitely were. They're not a team that's like crazy talented. And I think, they just had some good runs. They had great coaching. They had, just a team that really looked like it was just gelling well together. But then when you run into a brick wall of a team, I think, to me, the Jazz, are even deeper really than the Nuggets are ahead of them. And to me, like, for some reason in my brain, like, I always got, like, the Jazz and Nuggets confused because, like, not only their colors and their geography, but, like, just kind of, like, how their rosters are, It's, like, a lot of guys who are, like, pretty good, not crazy good,
Well, these teams are not hyped up either. They're, like, in the same...
Yeah. Part of that...
They should be talked about much more.
Right? Like, you're not going to get a Salt Lake City team get, like, a lot of media hype, even if they're good.
Yeah.
So I think this is where, like, the Thunder... that whole thing would come crashing down. I think they would lose in like 5 games to the Jazz. I think the Jazz are a team that can make a big leap. I think they're going to keep getting better. I've always loved Mike Conley. He's had a great second act there with the Jazz, just like I kind of thought he would. Gobert, obviously, virus weirdness aside, great player. I mean, everyone loves him. He does everything you need to do, and obviously,
I guess. I feel like he's kind of lost that love.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's not. People saw how he handled that, and all that's up in smoke. Like people aren't going to forget that. And then of course there's Donovan Mitchell, who really kind of makes it all go. And Donovan Mitchell really reminds me a lot of D Wade. And I think at some point they can make that kind of a run that the Heat had with D Wade. Although they don't have a guy like prime Shaq to really push them over the top. But he's in that mold, of a shorter, more traditional shooting guard who really does it all on either side of the court. And those are just things the Thunder they just don't have anything like that, regardless of how well the regular season went. I think it would be a big kind of reality check series for them.
I don't know. I kind of like this OKC team, just because when they put their three guards together, so when it's like Chris Paul, Schroeder, and SGA, like they just run these like constant pick and rolls at the top, and it just gets like confusing, and then they find some mismatch, and Chris Paul just like pulls up from like the free throw line. And
They're a team that knows exactly what it's doing. They're consistent, and teams like that, they are very, very good at just kicking the shit out of bad teams and teams that they're supposed to beat.
Yeah, but
and I think that's why they have the record that they have. Is because
wouldn't the Jazz fit that role too? Like, don't they just beat up on bad teams? Like,
I think the Jazz have more like star power at the high end. I really do. I think guys like Conley and Gobert and Mitchell are just guys that are at a different level than some of the best players on the Thunder. Like, the best player on the Thunder is, who?
Probably maybe Chris Paul.
Do you have
maybe
Chris
Steven?
Paul? You have a Chris Paul, Hall of Fame point guard, but a guy who's probably 34 years old now.
Yeah, he's definitely post prime.
And then around that you have, Schrader, you have Steven Adams, who's gotten a lot better this year, even better than he was before. I think he's more of a good solid starter now. But overall, it's really just a team that's well coached, has probably great leadership from Chris Paul, I'm guessing, because that's what he is. And I'm not in the locker room, so I don't know. But they just look like a team to me that's really good at consistently beating bad teams. And when it comes to the playoffs, that can inflate your record a bit, I think, because you're not facing bad teams anymore, especially not in the Western playoffs. You're facing teams with players that are probably better than the players you have, and I don't know if that'll be enough to win more than one game in a series.
Yeah, I disagree. I just think I don't really understand Utah's makeup. They had Mike Conley. Mike Conley looked awful for most of the year, and then kind of started getting a little better, and was hurt for a bit, and then came back and
I like him.
Doing okay. And it's Donovan Mitchell. He looks like D Wade sometimes, but also he just kind of looks like a Tobias Harris. Can't hit a shot too. This is just
very young. Yeah,
it's a very hot and cold. Yeah, no, and he was a 20th pick, or he was a high first round pick, and how he's this good hyped so fast is incredible. But I just don't get. I don't really get their the flow of that team. Joe Ingles is sometimes
they honestly. It could be a year even. Definitely at most 2 years where, a team like the Grizzlies are better than the Jazz, because a team like the Grizzlies, I think, have a much more clear core to, the roster and what they're doing. And also with, the potential of John Morant, which, could be limitless. And their great rookie class that they have. The Jazz are not a team that I expect to be at the top part of the West. They're not going to be a 4 seed, in the near future, I don't think. I think they're going to be a team that's going to be back to, where they were in previous years, kind of battling for a spot.
Yeah. I can see that.
So I think a team like the Grizzlies, for example, there's teams right behind them that have much better core, I think, overall. So I don't think that's something that people disagree with in terms of looking at the Jazz and being well, what's going on here? This is probably their ceiling.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I guess they do have Bogdanovich. I always forget about that because I don't really tune into Monday Jazz games.
Yeah, well, they're only on, if at all. They're on at 10:30 on a Wednesday night on ESPN. No one's watching that shit.
Yeah, except for West Coast. West Coast.
Yeah,
probably.
They don't count. They're not people. You were over there, you know.
Throwing shade. Hey, no, dude, it's like so easy to watch.
This is a pro New York podcast. You know, we have
Pro New
East
York,
Coast
yeah.
bias over
Pro
here.
East Coast. Yeah. All we talk about is Knicks all the time.
Yeah, we talk. Well, yeah. Although you do have a guy who literally comes on just to talk about shit Raiders. So I don't know. That is pretty West Coast.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. So like, I had my friend Fritz on, who's a Packers fan, just shit on their draft, and
I'm sure he must have been
Raiders
pissed.
shit on yours, and then my friend's a Pats fan too, and their draft was okay.
Like Patriots.
Yeah, Patriot. Yeah.
Where's he from?
He grew up in Rochester and was a Patriots fan. Yeah, right. Boo, boo, you Joe Crespo. Yeah.
You should have multiple people on.
Well, we could probably Zoom or something and record on Zoom.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll make it work. Do a little group.
You have like that'd be. I mean, multiple. Most podcasts are that way, where you have multiple, like 3+ hosts. That'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah.
We could have done that for the fucking draft.
Yeah. We'll have to.
We could have had a draft fan.
No, so he's a Patriots fan and his brother's a Raiders fan. So I guess.
Oh yeah, I mean the Tuck Roll game must have like really fucked up their family.
Yeah. Yeah, probably.
That's literally the worst thing ever. Yeah, between those two teams.
Yeah. All right. Ended on the high note of the Tuck rule.
Yeah. Well, it gets brought up on like ESPN like every other week anyway. So
yeah.
Who cares?
Yeah. All right. This concludes the Snowflake Sports podcast. Thank you, Chris, for coming on. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
You're welcome.
Please rate and review us wherever you get your podcast. And all right. Peace.
See you.